40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Earlier today, the Green Bay Packers and quarterback Jordan Love agreed to a one-year contract extension worth up to $22.5 million. That includes $13.5 million in fully guaranteed money. College baseball, Tennessee has a midweek matchup with Wofford today. First pitch at 5:30 from Lindsey Nelson Stadium in Knoxville, and Vanderbilt playing host to Georgia State at 6 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, it's Tuesday. What's going on, everybody? I didn't have my headphones or anything, and I thought I heard Lucas say you're up, and then the lights came on. You and me were just telling stories to each other. I was having a good time telling you about.
He didn't get that. He didn't get that, did he?
Hey, Lucas didn't hear my story. This guy
okay, I didn't make sure.
No hot mic situation today.
No, this is totally.
You always do a good job of protecting me.
Yeah, this total on-air story.
Now that means you about to mess me up now.
This dude we had played in Arkansas State. I won't say any of his name. You know, I'll protect the innocent. And I was telling Blaine, this dude, the Titans are looking for more speed. And I remember this guy. They recruited him, and he had all this speed. And, boy, every year he got hurt. He hurt his hamstring every year.
All 4 years.
Every year, all 4 years. I think he wound up playing 7 games in 4 years. I don't know if he had 7 catches.
But he got so frustrated, Mickey acted out what he did the last go-round of the hammy issue.
Senior year, another hamstring issue. I'm outside, like, fishing for something in my car, and, like, the front door of the football complex just flings open. And here comes this guy out. And I never saw him mad or upset ever. Upset, like, dang, not again. I never saw him like this. And he came out, and his car was kind of close, and he, like, slammed his hands down on the hood of his car, and he goes, "My body can't handle my speed."
I was dying. I was over there in the court. I fell down, man. I was like, what?
And I thought, boy, I never thought of that about myself.
Yeah.
And so,
pretty great.
By this time,
my body can't handle my
Blaine's always
speed.
talking like, stay hydrated, man. Stay hydrated. Go find a yoga class.
But not with no Miller Lite.
You are who you are, right. Get hydrated with water. Do the right thing. And maybe this dude just wasn't committed to doing that because nothing but hamstring problems for 4 years.
And this dude was fast light. He could have really helped himself.
So he was a repeat.
Helped us.
He was a repeat offender. You're saying?
Oh, he was. Vrabel would have mentioned him every year in the closing press conference. So this dude, like he's still just mad and like he's just swinging and punching. He's so mad. And after he said his body couldn't handle his speed, there were like other guys putting their gear in their car, whatever, because practice was over. And one of those guys goes, "Not from day one, bro."
That's amazing.
And so, with all that being said, that a segue into that's how a lot of fans are feeling right now after this draft.
Oh, their bodies can't handle.
Unfortunately, I thought it was a solid draft, but we shall see. We all can give our analysis and overall grades and everything else, but you have to be determined. I'm sure when the at that time the Oilers drafted me, I'm sure they said, "Oh, this is a horrible draft pick."
No, man, they could have had you in the fifth round. They called you.
That's absolutely what the fan base. Obviously, the coaches thought something. So you just never know. I think it's some solid picks, as I said before. So. Hopefully it all works out, but I think what I think people are missing is they're in that middle road of purgatory where you're trying to transition away from your star players and still trying to get your franchise team and still build the team and still be competitive and try to win games. They're right in that middle of that. And without admitting that they are, and I'm a little perplexed now because that's why I kept on saying you got to go one way or the other. It's hard to stay in that middle like that. You either got to be reloading or you're rebuilding. It's one or two. There, we always make fun here on the radio, and it's all cool and dandy, and we come up with these names, what's in between. But at the end of the day, I think they're really navigating really well, which tells me, Byard and Henry, and if they don't get traded, still there's still a possibility that could happen. Or Tannehill, you always try to be one step ahead of the last year that you want them on the team based off of their contracts or for whatever reason, even if they're producing. So that's where we're at right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Levis starts. I mean, that was kind of what made me say that. When I say that, I'm talking about maybe if someone has an injury, on a team, another team at quarterback, and then they say, okay, who's available? Depending on where Levis is at that point in time. And I know I'm jumping over Malik Willis, and I think he has a little further to go, but I know what Coach Vrabel said, and he has to say that because you don't want something given to somebody. You want him to earn it. But as soon as he gets on the field, I would think just some of his talents are just going to showcase. So he's going to get to that number 2, hopefully, sooner than later. And then maybe 3 or 4 games in or even earlier, they may be confident that Tannehill can be, maybe out on the market. Just don't know because that is the direction. When you draft a guy second round, even though it's not first round, it's still second round. I think the expectations are you, the GM, Vrabel, are attached to Levis. They are. This is their franchise quarterback. So I think we must not overlook that. And we could talk about the pressure and he's not a first rounder and all those things. But guess what? The pressure's still there because he will become your franchise and face of your organization at some point in time, and the GM and the head coach going to be tied to him.
So have you just taken the clock and
Yep.
as soon as they get drafted?
And I say this as much, I've always been fair to Tannehill, so I think he's a really good quarterback. But as I said before, I think you need to just move on and let's start over. And and that could be the whole crew of the 3 guys because you got to start that clock. And to me, I just think quarterbacks are much more prepared. Now, sometimes you have luxury because you have a veteran quarterback who's still capable of doing really well, which is Tannehill. So do you wait? And then if your season isn't going where it should go, you got to get him some experience because going into that next season, he's the guy. So why not start that clock now if you don't become a playoff contending team? Vrabel's a competitor just like everybody else in the organization. They believe they can win. They're going to, get a couple pieces here or there. Just imagine if they pull off a blockbuster trade and then pick another veteran guy for a receiver and then get another veteran guy off the waiver wire that's solid. And then next then they got that with Burks and then everybody else will fall in line where they're supposed to be. Then all of a sudden the team looks really, really good. And by the way, I'm assuming that the offensive line comes together. Whoever starts where. There is better talent there already, right off the cuff. So the only thing to me at this point in time, I want a little more depth at cornerback, and I want some proven. And I'm not even 4 or 5 year guys. It may not be superstars or anything like that because I'm cool with that. But productive wide receivers in this league, you got to have somebody line up there. And I'm being a former defensive back. If I see what I see right now, nothing's scaring me. I'd be like, I dare you. I dare you. And I ain't even talking about coming across no middle because that was my deal. I'm talking about going deep, somebody run by. There's nothing out there that's going to make me, shake my boots. And Burks is going to have to be, A.J. Brown now in year 2. Immediately, if they stick with this group, just like this, there's just no way. I've been saying it for a long time, and I love NWI. But he is a borderline 3. Now, yeah, can he go get 100 yards in a game? Yeah, any receiver can do that, the way that people throw the ball. But he's not that. So I think they're figuring that out. I think they believed that he was. I think they believed that he was a 2.
Well, their actions said they did for sure. And
Yeah.
like you always say, words don't matter.
Yeah.
Your actions. And their actions were.
I think he's
2.
more a solid 3, and no one can game plan for him. Once you see him in film and these guys who study the game, who have the skill set. So that's the only thing to me that's left. Do I still question some of the draft picks? I mean, only when I can really question. And I still like the player. Tajay Spears, I want to say always sharp or whatever. Because great player. I don't know if I would have went wide receiver there. And I don't even know who's available to be. They might have missed out on some guys that they really liked when they made the trade for Levis, and then they moved their 3rd pick back. Right?
They missed
Tillman,
Hyatt, Tillman, and Josh Downs. They went in the time in between time.
So and it may have not been anybody on the board that they really liked or scouted to the depth that they wanted. When I say that, it could be also personal interviews or visits or sit downs where they had thorough conversation with them instead of drive by and scouted them and just had general conversation with them. So that might have been what they're talking about the board, or nobody was rated high enough and they just said we're going with the next highest rated player we got, and that's how they got to there. Yeah, he's a solid player, and a lot of people talking about all the ACLs and everything else, but when you're third round pick and all they're trying to get out of you is 3 or 4 years anyway, and he's gonna get right on in there and be Hilliard's replacement and do well. I believe he's gonna play and contribute. And I'm up here talking about I want a receiver, which would be maybe a little bit harder at third round to develop into the lineup, but you're still looking at the long term too as well.
David Chow, the pro football doc, who I think you know him. We've had him on. Yeah.
I've sat down with him for dinner and everything. I met him through Lorenzo Neal, many, many years ago when Lorenzo was a Charger. That was still San Diego at that time.
Wow. Okay, that has been a
We
minute.
sat down for dinner at some big-time steak place, and, yeah, he was big time.
This is what he said. He quote tweeted Ian Rappaport, the Titans pick at number 81, Tulane running back Tyjae Spears, very talented player, but knee concerns dropped him to the third. This is what David Chow said. I'll retweet this. I'll retweet it from Blaine and Mickey too. He said, now reports of full thickness cartilage loss,
What is that?
end-stage arthritis, which would explain why his knee is not unstable with its ACL tear. Arthritic knees with bone spurs are rarely unstable. He can play in the NFL, but he will have a very short career.
Right.
It's David Chow.
So he could be really good for the 3 years they have him and keep it moving.
It's like Todd Gurley. I'm going to ask Coach Mack about this today.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a good because he
played
coached
5 years for the Rams and gained 5,000 yards. Then he had one more year with the Falcons, 600 yards. That was his whole career.
Yeah,
But
well,
for-
his knee kept messing up. I didn't know what was wrong with his knee. I'd love to hear that story because oh, man. When they played them here, he hurdled somebody. I mean, the dude didn't even bend down hardly on a screenplay. Oh, my God. He might have took it to the house. I was like, oh, man. And he was just as good as I thought he was from the days when he was at Georgia. And then some surgery or something, maybe he had something and they knew about it. But if they knew about it, why did they give him that long-term deal?
Don't know.
Even though he was producing.
He was producing.
You that's when you let him walk. You say, yeah, well, we got to go to the next guy. They didn't. They gave him a slew of money. He was never the same.
Let's get a AG in Nashville. He wants to join the discussion. AG, what's up?
AG.
I don't get the narrative that Brave and them gonna get fired if it don't work out because before the draft, that's all I'm talking about. I was turning the radio off because it was just quarterback, Will Levis and these other quarterbacks and stuff. And Kaifer Jr. had him as his second quarter. I just don't understand it because ain't the totality of everything what side you took. I mean, the free agent picks, all the other picks. Like, I just don't understand how we just narrow it down to just this. And the guy was drafted in the second. The guy was drafted in the second round. And also, one more thing.
But Jalen Hurts was too. Jalen Hurts was drafted in the second round.
Yeah, but I got one more thing, though. Look how many times the last GM messed up, like with the draft and with free agent signings and stuff. And we going to tie this one thing. If this don't work, it's out the door. I just don't get that narrative, so I can't understand it.
No, I appreciate it, Yeah, I just said he was going to be tied to him. With that being said, being the first-time GM, and I always used to say this about JR, how do you grade out a successful GM in his draft and his signings, his free agent signings? Because he missed on first-rounders. And to me, that's, like, in my mind, that can't happen. That just can never happen. Now, maybe the Isaiah Wilson Panda stuff, you can't predict some stuff like that. So I may give him a pass. But the rest of it, the ratings, I know he was second. You can't. Not back to back to back. And then the KO Farley, those are no, because those are the guys, those are your star-studded, special, gifted, off-the-charts athletes. The other guys like myself and all the role players that are really good football players, that's what's built around the team, but you got to have those star-studded guys, and it starts with the quarterback. That's why it's always the attachment to the quarterback. And guess what? That's why he got a pass, because he traded for Tannehill, and without Tannehill, we would be nowhere. So I think that's why you got to pass, and that's why eventually too many of those mistakes cost the team, and they were always trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
And you can't catch up. And unfortunately for Rand and Vrabel, they are now trying to fix the gaps and holes that were left because of those picks, and not just the high ones, some of even the lower round picks as well. So it's a building. That's why they keep saying the word patience, because I got patient. Like, well, you know what you need, but they understand that this is something that's going to have to be built, and it's not going to be overnight. And that's what they're giving us hints. We need to be patient. We all know this is not a patient league. Yeah, so
not for long.
Yeah, it's poor. So yeah, we but they can't come out and say we are rebuilding, and they're doing a heck of a job, to be honest. They're going to be presentable, and with the way Vrabel coaches, they're always going to have a shot in any game. So but they get a couple more pieces, maybe a backup corner and just a good solid wide receiver in the NFL. Just a guy who's produced in this league. May not produce here as much, but give us 600-700 yard type guy that that's going to happen. I think we'll be good.
We'll be good to go for a second segment. Here's what we got coming up next. What caught your attention? There's a lot of things out there that may have caught your attention. There's some Grizzlies news. Shams just dropped about an hour ago about a player who is not coming back under any circumstances. There's Titans draft. There's NFL draft. What caught your attention in sports? We got ours. You got yours.
Luka's cousin.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Gotta get your franchise quarterback.
Caught your attention in the sports world this weekend. The Zone TV chat has just been on fire the last couple of days.
Me up.
They're lighting each other up and lighting up Levis and lighting up the draft.
They were eating bananas and what did he do with the banana peel? What did he do?
He ate a banana with the peeling.
Oh, I thought he did something with Miracle. What did he do?
He put Miracle Whip or mayonnaise in his coffee.
Oh, mayonnaise in his coffee. So he did two different things.
I'm not a big coffee or mayonnaise guy. I don't care what people do with mayonnaise or coffee.
What was his point of doing it? What was he saying, Lucas? You guys about the same age.
I mean, just doing something funny for TikTok or whatever it was.
Right, just to get some clicks, right?
Yeah, that's all. Like They asked him about it. He was like, I don't know. I'm just doing something dumb.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Here's what. But do you want your? It's okay if it was like your offensive lineman, D lineman,
Or like me. Or Bert.
Right. Yeah.
Bert 100%.
But is it okay for your quarterback? See, that's why it gets all into these little bitty things that, in reality, it doesn't mean anything about who he is. I mean, in reality, he could be super serious about football and being a quarterback and always watching film and everything else. So, until we see him out there, we will find out. But he's got some tools. I think that I'm going to give him a fair shot because I said before the draft that whether it's Richardson or Levis, I'm cool with either way. You got to develop him. And I think he kind of fits this offense. I really do. So I'm going to give him a better shot that he's going to be on the other side of this at some point in time.
I would like to hear from somebody because everybody that has like an orange avatar, or like they sent me a message on Facebook about the draft. If it's Go Big Orange or Vol for Life, they all hate the Levis pick. They hate it.
But that, you know why? It's because Hooker was available.
Right.
Now, from a strategic point, if I'm the owner as well as the coach, if it was just a huge gap and you go, hey, we can't do that. Especially I knew I was going to have Tannehill here, I would have made that move. Guess why? And they were good. He's a good football player. So if they're close, I'm going with who's going to help me make more money if I'm the owner. This is a big-time billion-dollar industry, and he's going to put more zeros in my pocket. I'm going to get UT fans going to pack this thing up. Yeah, see, so I would have thought like that if they were close. Obviously, in their minds, they didn't think so. And you can talk about his ACL and his age and all those things. Well, you didn't need him immediately.
Right.
And guess what you're also doing? You're also giving more time for Malik Willis to develop. He's getting more snaps. If, Hooker couldn't practice immediately when training camp started. So I would have went the other way just for that. But I'm cool either way. I really am. I said it before because you just didn't know what's going to happen. The draft is unpredictable. I think it's harder to get drafted now than ever before. I really do. And then the guys who didn't get drafted, and everybody gets jilted about that, the players. I think you have an advantage. If you're a guy that should have got drafted and you had a draftable grade, you got a better contract than the guys that got drafted in that last round. Because now you had multiple bidders.
Oh, and guys getting their whole
contracts
guaranteed more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I almost was in that situation. I was 214, but my agent was like, hey, man, this may be a good thing. He was setting it up early. Because he knew, he's like, well, I don't know what's going on here.
Do you know who else called him? Like who called maybe like, hey, if this dude doesn't get drafted, we want to sign him.
The Jets, both New York teams.
Oh, Broadway Blaine.
That was a long time ago. 93. Trying to think, it was another team. Might have been the Browns or the Bengals, one of the two. Yeah. So, yeah, you just never know. And I thought that's where it was going because I'd already changed my mind to that. In 214 at the time, which was the first year, it was 8 rounds. That shows you how many picks they get compensatory picks now. They added on. Was like early to middle of the last round. Yeah, so it's a little unnerving, but all you want is the opportunity.
Yeah.
Once you get there, all bets are off. Now, it's almost like competing against a 5-star. If they drafted a guy high and you're showing at practice that you're better than this guy, whether it's because you understand the play, sooner or later, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Just know that's going to happen. Just know that. But other than that, man, the NFL's about winning, and they're going to play the best.
Hendon Hooker's age. That was a big topic for like all the
it didn't bother me.
All the draft,
It didn't bother me.
All the draft analysts out there. Let me ask you guys this. When was the last anybody that played here for 10 years besides Brett Kern?
Brad Hopkins. 13.
Okay.
Lawan was 9, right?
Didn't make it to 10. Jarrell didn't make it to 10.
What did Ruse make it for?
9, I think.
I made it to 9, but not in the state of Tennessee. But yeah.
So for Hendon Hooker, I mean, okay, what if he played here 10 years? He was 35 or 36.
Same age as Tannehill.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's why I said it was never an issue for me.
I mean, neither. I could care less how
Especially
old
at the
somebody
quarterback
is.
position. Now, for other positions, certainly
Like 25-year-old running back who's been taking all those extra hits.
Or one of the speed positions, because at some point you lose speed and in certain positions.
Your body can't handle your speed.
Yeah, your body can't handle your speed. So
I knew that was going to work.
You get to 32 as a DB, you start losing the tick. Now you're a lot smarter. You know how to study your opponents and all those things, but you still lose a step on that deep end speed.
But isn't the quarterback age conversation, and I agree that I think it's completely overblown, but isn't it more about where he is as a product versus a guy like Richardson who's only 20, that there's so much more to work with and so much more room to grow?
I think some people could take that view, and I wouldn't. It'd be hard to do.
Like, I've always thought that was the hang-up, rather than, like, what do you mean? He could play till he's 35, 36.
Right.
But I do agree that it's overrated, that you can still develop if you're 25.
Well, some people are saying Levis is 24, Hooker 25.
Yes, Levis is 24.
Yeah. Here's the only doubt, and I wish I could sit down. That's why I love talking to people and get in their heads and really figure out who they really are. How did he lose his starting job to Clifford at Penn State, who wasn't and isn't an NFL prospect at quarterback? I want to know what happened. Now, we all know some coaches make bad decisions based off of NFL game to college game. That's happened all. We can go from Casey Weldon and Brad Johnson. I know you guys don't know who that is, but from Florida State to, it happens all over the place. But I'd love to hear his response, because that's a tough question to answer without being a little bit perturbed about that it happened. Now, he could say, he moved on and then show what he's really was worth. But, yeah, I'd love to know. Or maybe even talk to the coaches. What people find out is NFL scouts, they don't really try to get a lot of information from actual coaches, which is, I thought they did. They base it off the film and talking to the actual person. Because naturally the coaches are going to be a little skewed because they want their guys to get drafted, because it makes their university and their program and them look well and good. So, yeah, that was never an issue. So, yeah. So you can't say 1 year is really a difference. Only thing you can say is the ACL. Would he be ready? Maybe, maybe not at the beginning of training camp. But guess what? You didn't need it to be ready because you had Tannehill. I would have went that route because that was strictly business. I did not scout both of those guys in depth, but I thought they were close enough to say, I'm going the other way. Sometimes you got to make tough decision, and I don't know if you want to call that political or not, just because it's a state player.
Especially if you know in that building down there that you want Ryan Tannehill to be your quarterback this year. If you know that, because then there's no way you were going to worry about having Hooker play until it was late in the season when he was a full year out from his ACL.
Oh, so you saying them when going with Levis, then that they not sure that he going to be the quarterback?
Oh, I wrote this. I wrote this down.
Oh, you breaking news?
No, I'm not breaking any news.
Well, you're not sure if they really want Tannehill to start this year coming into the season.
This is 2 years in a row they've drafted a quarterback pretty high.
Man.
So last year, and they knew Malik.
Two different groups of GMs, but okay, yeah, you're right.
But they had probably looked enough to think, okay, he won't be ready to compete in 22, but in 2023, that rascal needs to be ready to compete. So now they have Levis. He's a second-round pick. He needs to be ready to compete. What if the Falcons call you with a third-round pick? You don't have one next year. You got a 1, a 2, a 4, and 2 7s. What if Washington called you with the third-round pick? Because they got, who's the dude who's, I can't even think.
Howell.
Thurston Howell.
Sam Howell.
From Gilligan's Island. What if Bill Belichick had truly had enough, and he called Mike Vrabel and said, I'll send you a third for Tannehill. I'll throw in this quarterback that I don't like. You can have him too.
So we get a third and Mac Jones?
I'm just saying that.
No,
He was like Mac Jones. But what if he called and offered you a third?
And then you have 3 young quarterbacks.
What if Tampa Bay saw enough of what they had and said, okay, we want Tannehill to come down here? What if Kyler Murray has a setback? What if Arizona... What if Kyler Murray, they're watching him every day thinking, ain't no way this dude's going to play till like November. Let's call and get Ryan Tannehill.
They get Tannehill, but Kyler Murray would not fit this offense.
No, I don't want Kyler Murray. I'm saying they just want Tannehill. Kyler Murray's making too much money.
Okay.
But
For
just
the
use
year.
him for a bridge
For a
guy.
year. Okay,
Just-
yeah. I would do it all day long. Yep.
They don't have a third.
third round pick?
They have a first, a
Oh.
second, a fourth, and 2 sevenths.
Would you do that? Lucas is like debating. He said, I don't know, man. Let me go get some
He won't
chicken.
even turn his light on. He's not even.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
there's his light.
You wouldn't give up a third?
Yeah, I'd give up a third.
It's a tough call. That's why I said they're in the middle. So they still believe they can win. It depends how close Levis is to Tannehill, and they think they can get the same production. And this is a question I brought up last week: is if you threw Levis out there, how many more wins would you have or losses? Whether Levis or whoever, Malik Willis, is to start over Tannehill. And my guess was 1 or 2 games. And so if I'm saying that, then, well, what's 1 or 2 games? Now, it could keep you from getting in the playoffs. But guess what? You're also developing your quarterback for the next year.
That's it. Vegas says 7.5 wins with 7.5
With Tannehill.
Wins.
See?
Yeah, 7.5 wins.
And usually
Okay.
they're always a game back, so that means they'll go 8 and 9.
Yeah.
That's not playoff.
Okay. So why not just win 6 with Will Levis and get that rascal a whole year? And I'm not trying to boot Ryan Tannehill out of town, but I'm just saying if I'm running a business, would you accept a little bit of diminishing returns for a short, and not even maybe that much if you say the difference of 8 to 6, and then no, my business could get way better the next year, and then way better.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have my whole business plan for the future
And
years.
just think 2 more draft classes and free agency. Now you rocking and rolling, and your quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
Ooh.
2nd round pick rookie contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds yummy to the tummy. It's like that chicken in there, chicken dumpling.
Somebody
They
just
got some
left chicken and dumplings in the break room. And Lucas is like, hey, man, look at these buckets.
Oh, man, if people
Chicken
only
and
can see
dumplings.
Lucas when he walks out the studio and goes grab his bite of his sandwich. It reminds me of my dog when I'm giving him a snack.
You could leave anything at this radio station, any of you, anybody listening, any of you, and Lucas would eat it. I feel safe in saying
Oh,
that.
man.
He'd be happy
I
to have
remember
it,
those
and he
days I
would
could
eat
eat
it.
like that, man.
Those chicken and dumplings, man.
That's not what caught my attention, though. What caught your attention, Lucas Panzica, besides the dumplings in the break room? Just anonymously vacated dumplings.
I mean, I this has been talked about a lot, but I got to go with the Eagles and the way they're really leaning in.
No, the Philadelphia
The
Bulldogs.
Eagle Dogs.
Dang.
And
And they're in the right conference, too.
right. And so it was out of the first round, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Great haul to get those 2 players out of the first round. And then they go on to draft Keely Ringo, who joins Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, former Georgia players.
That was a shocker, too, by the way. He went 5th round.
Yeah, Ringo fell.
Mm-hmm.
Ringo fell. I think there's questions about whether he's a safety or a corner in the league.
Yep.
And then they trade for DeAndre Swift, the former Georgia running back. The Detroit Lions deal Swift over to Philly. So that certainly stuck out to me. And I saw this from Peter Schrager talking on NFL Network. Did you guys see this where he kind of mentioned offhand that some executives around the league are getting annoyed with how much praise Howie Roseman is getting?
Yeah, he tried to clarify that later on Twitter.
Yeah, he tweeted some context on this, Peter Schrager did. For lack of a better word, the execs were commenting on the media love the Eagles draft was receiving over the course of the 3 days, not Howie Roseman personally. That wasn't the intention. So Schrager indicating that execs around the league are saying their draft wasn't that great. I don't know why everybody's freaking out about it. So was the Eagles draft that great, or are we just looking at the fact that they're taking all these Georgia players, the back-to-back national
Players that
champs?
we all know well.
Right. So that's kind of what caught my attention because I sat there asking myself that this morning.
Well, I think those dudes are really good.
Here, I'm going to pull up Philly's draft.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. They got the car to do who some people would say maybe the second best player in the whole entire draft, right? That's that D tackle, right?
Yes.
Jalen Carter.
Yep.
Yeah, Carter. And then we got the Smith kid who can sprint by all of our receivers that we got on our team right now.
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
You know, 4.38, 4.4. Yeah,
Tested
you know.
better than any edge rusher at the combine.
Yeah. So-
Tyler Steen.
Bama, Vandy transfer.
Yeah, I was going to say
Offensive line.
Vama. He went to Vandy and
Yeah.
Bama. Okay, Sidney Brown from Illinois.
Yep.
The safety.
Yep, that safety there. He reminds me of myself.
Keely Ringo, who Lucas mentioned, fantastic player in college. Then they didn't have a 5th. In the 6th, they got Tanner McKee, the quarterback from Stanford, who's one of those late round guys that a lot of people thought was worth taking a flyer on.
Yeah, he'll be a career backup and do great even if he gets some spot play as a starter. Yep. Eventually.
And then I don't know if Moro Ojomo, Texas. I don't know if I'm saying his name right or wrong, but I saw he was like on Daniel Jeremiah's best values per round. I think he was considered the best value pick in the seventh
Was that
round.
the linebacker?
No.
The defensive end.
Defensive end.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's, hey, man,
I think it was. I mean, it was.
that's a pretty freaking solid draft.
Man.
It leaned very heavily. It was all defense except for the Stanford quarterback.
I mean, didn't have a need at receiver, right?
They cleaned that up here.
Yeah, they're okay there. They addressed running back, getting DeAndre Swift. I believe Rashad Penny is a Philadelphia Eagle.
I picked him up in free agency. Yeah, from the Seahawks. Yeah.
So they went heavy defense, and I think I would agree with the love that Philly is getting around the league as somebody that has watched the Georgia defense up close and personal for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anybody? I mean, I'm sure there were some other teams, but I mean, yeah, I put them at the top of the list.
Georgia, Alabama, then an Illinois guy, then another Georgia guy, as we said, Stanford, then Texas, who's actually now in the SEC for all practical purposes. So Philly looking down south to draft some guys. What caught your attention, Blaine Bishop?
Man, I'm going to the NBA route, man. There's a couple things here because it was all in one game. I'm sitting there watching the Denver Nuggets versus the Phoenix Suns, man. And let's first start. The CP3 always gets hurt in the playoffs, man.
Hurt again.
Yeah, he growing or something, man. So I think he just got that old man syndrome. Once you get to a certain level, your body says no.
He needs
you
a
can't
full
do it.
growing maintenance program.
But one thing that stood out in this game was the Joker, and I mean the Joker, has no jokes. Because he is unstoppable with getting an inch off the ground. He is so skilled at shooting, his dribbling, crossover, his post moves, his three-point shot, his mid-range game. And, oh, by the way, his assist. I think he finished with 39 points, 15 rebounds, and like 5 or 6 assists or somewhere. I'm like, they can't stop him. And, by the way, Ayton is an athletic big from Arizona. Yeah, University of Arizona. He plays for the Sun. He couldn't guard him if he had. Oh, he was up there doing this all his arm and distant. Man, this guy, he was holding the ball up on top of his head. Then he just go, oh, okay, you just going to leave me. Oh, I'm going to shoot that. Bang. I was like, man, they can't stop him. They are going down. This is the reason why Denver Nuggets, I'm interested to see how far they go because they got to win games in the playoffs because they got the number 1 seed and they did it last year. And they got Murray, who had a bad night, by the way, this time. So I think we need to be watching out for the Denver Nuggets. The Joker, I know he won MVP last year. A lot of people saying Embiid and other contenders. Hey, man, I watch Embiid. I'm fascinated with how big he is, too. But he can shoot them threes, but he not skilled like this cat here, man. This cat, the Joker, is not playing. So the Joker is the real deal. I think he may be, watch this, the most unstoppable player in the league. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's 2-time MVP, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, we could talk about Brian Bond or Irvin or who all these guards that can dribble. Curry. Guess what? When Curry started missing some jumpers, old Joker's like, I put my back to the basket, dribble you down like old school. Got all these moves in the post game. I mean, man, he can play point guard if he wanted. I mean, this dude is weird, and I feel like, man, he only jumps off the ground about an inch, but he's so skilled and so smart as a player. Nobody can even compete with him. It is really unique.
I'll throw in a basketball one. Then when we come back, I have a wider one that I mentioned yesterday. Jordan DeJani with an article that caught my attention that I'll hit you with. But Shams reporting earlier today, the Grizz have informed pending free agent Dylan Brooks he will not be brought back under any circumstance. That's the quote from
Shams. He
Shams.
talked his way up off the team.
Goodbye.
And his performance, by the way, stunk. He didn't even. That's why I said when you start that chitter-chatter, you better back that thing up. Beep. Never do that. You wait till after you win.
And then scurry away from the media stuff post-game after.
You chicken.
He scurried out of Memphis. He will
got
be scurried.
fined 25 G's.
Oh, man. 25 G's lighter and scurrying right out of Memphis. All right, we'll scurry to break when we come back. Craig in Bowling Green wants to weigh in the discussion. What caught your attention? An article by Jordan DeJani about where the Titans could look for receiver help. That's out there.
Where? I can't wait. And that means they won't sign any of these guys.
It probably does mean that. We'll be back.
Crap.
Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Let's squeeze Craig in. Then
we
I'll
got Craig from Bowling
squeeze
Green.
in. Calling from Bowling Green. I used to live in
that
Bowling
quarterback
Green.
from Bowling Green.
This is Craig, the quarterback. Craig, what's up, man? Thanks for calling the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline.
Hey, man, well, I appreciate you guys. Well, we're getting a lot of hate on Will Levis.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if, would we not been more beneficial to go ahead, get a receiver in the second round and maybe trade down in the third? Bennett. I mean, obviously his potential is not the same. He grew up with the Teddy Ruxpin and all that, but, he's a proven winner. Would we have still got the same hate for dogs, coming out of the draft?
Yeah, real quick question, though, to you. I do like that idea, but when are you ever going to get your franchise quarterback if you know this is Tannehill's last year?
If nobody's really sold on Will Levis, go ahead and get Stetson in there. He is an insurance pick. If we wasted a pick on why not spend a third rounder on him? Give him a shot. Like I said, he did prove himself in the
All right, Craig. Who
did he talk about?
He keeps saying Stetson Bennett, and his phone keeps cutting out.
Oh, yeah.
So
I love me some Stetson Bennett. He went fourth round to the Rams, and that's only because of his height. He's a winner. He's proven he's mentally tough. He's got an air of confidence about him. Some people can call it cocky. I like it, though. Mm-hmm. I want my quarterback to be, especially when you've overcome everything that he had to, being a walk-on, then going to JV, then come back and say you're third string. He said, no, I'm first string. I love every bit of all of that. So I might have been a ding-dong, took him in the first round, too. And I would have got fired. So just because it's just in the league, certain guys are going to get privileged to be able to be a shorter quarterback and be able to run offenses, and other guys just won't, because that's how it is. That's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but I think he can be just as good as anybody else. I think he's got all those intangibles that make you successful. I think they like Levis, so it wasn't about what the fans like. I think the organization felt like, okay, Anthony Richardson or Levis, if either one of those guys are available and we can get to them, we will. I don't think it was a priority once the way the draft was going. That's why they took Skoronski. Right. But then you hear not only them, but a handful of other teams were trying to move back in the first round because they thought Levis may be taken, even if those teams didn't need them as well, because they didn't expect him to be there at the end of the first round. So then they moved up in the second round. So I think that kind of curveball kind of changed where they were going to go down that path of getting a wide receiver. And then potentially, I don't know if you drafted, Malik Willis in the third round the year before, if they were going to take one in this draft, maybe. I don't know if they were even going to do that, but that's kind of where the plans changed. And then the receivers that were left on the board after they traded up, as you mentioned, Mickey, they're around. There weren't receivers that they liked that were graded high enough on their board. So then that's why they took Tajay Spears. I'm trying to keep from saying Tajay Sharp.
It's going to be hard for all of us, for sure.
So I love the player, and I even like Spears.
I like.
Now,
my gosh,
I don't
like
know who was still on the board. Maybe you guys would know better than me. I was sitting in the bar, but what receivers were available in the third round that you can remember off the top of your head after they took? When they took Spears.
We were actually talking about this today. So neither of the Tennessee receivers were.
They were gone because they had to move back.
Them and Josh Downs
had to move back because of that trade for Levis.
Yeah, so and then they went back-to-back, right? Hyde and Tillman, back-to-back to the Giants and Browns.
Okay.
I think the best receiver that we had been talking about was Tyler Scott. Tyler Scott was there.
He was there, the guy from Cincinnati?
Yeah, he fell to the fourth round. Chicago Bears took him in the fourth.
So they could have taken him there.
The other two receivers that got taken after the Titans picked were Michael Wilson of Stanford.
Right. That was the next receiver.
And Trey Tucker, who also went to Cincinnati. Another Cincinnati receiver. Both of those guys were taken after the Titans
Does it say
pick.
the size of Tucker?
Trey Tucker is
that the fast jitterbug guy?
Yes, 5'9", 182.
Yeah, he's explosive.
So
he's a gadget reverse. He is explosive.
Cincinnati, man.
Yeah, he was on another. Yeah, he was moving at a different.
Good program.
He was
pumping out
at
pros.
a different speed than the other guys.
Okay,
but he was smaller though. He probably played like running back, and as a guy they converted to receiver when he got to college, and it was easy transition for him. He can run routes. I watched this kid. Yeah. I remember him. I think he was like number 6 or something.
I believe Scott was a running back as well.
Yeah.
In high school.
So it's shocking that he didn't take Scott there.
So, and honestly, I mean, you get to the third, fourth round,
They was talking about speed, right?
Right.
He needed speed.
and I mean, if it's however your board lines up, you may think, well, you had this guy rated as a third round receiver. Just take your guy there, third, fourth. Who cares if he's your guy?
But at the end of the day, though, they did
They
speak
followed
highly
their board.
of Spears when they came back from the Senior Bowl. Matter of fact, it was just a Titan. It was across the NFL.
Oh, you and
like,
me.
oh, this Spears,
we
like,
watch this dude on
ooh.
TV every
I was
day.
like, man, I'm gonna go back and watch this USC bowl game, and he lit they butt up. They said, oh, I'm going back to California. Because I mean, he might have put up 200 on them dudes, man.
He put up 200 on him
Yeah,
against USC.
I said I saw enough. I said he was explosive to the and he's he can catch, block. He's a solid all around back. I didn't know anything about the ACLs besides the year before that. I didn't know he tore his ACL in college, arthritic and all that. He looked like he arthritic all right now. I tell you that. So a running back 3 years. My whole point is like you could have got a guy like that and you didn't even have to draft him. You didn't. You could have. I just saw the Chiefs just are about to sign that McKinney guy. He's a third down guy.
Yeah.
You talking about? Yeah, I love him. Watch him go block. Watch him go catch. Watch him on third downs with the Chiefs. He was really with the Vikings. That's where he was at, where people would know him more because he got more opportunity when guys got banged up. This dude legit. Like, so using capital for a third rounder when you need to continually, get some guys who, and he's going to contribute now, but I'm talking about down the road. I have no idea if he's going to be here after 3 years. That guy may be, somewhere else because they don't want to take the risk on his knee at that point in time. So, but they like him, and he's an explosive runner. Like he hits the hole. Like it's gonna be a little bit different when he come in there compared to Derek on hitting the hole. He get there quick. I'm like real quick.
All right, Jordan DeJani article: free agent options, XFL options, and trade options for the Titans.
For wide receiver.
Wide receiver. We'll name them all for you next.
Oh no, XFL.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Earlier today, the Packers and Jordan Love agreed to a one-year contract extension worth up to $22.5 million, including $13.5 million in guaranteed money. Love, officially the starter at quarterback as Aaron Rodgers heads to the New York Jets. College baseball, Tennessee has a midweek matchup with Wofford. First pitch in Knoxville is at 5:30, and Vanderbilt plays host to Georgia State. That is a 6 p.m. first pitch at Hawkins Field. NBA playoffs tonight. The Miami Heat are at the Knicks in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals at 6:30, and the Lakers and Warriors playing Game 1 in the West semifinals at 9 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Hour number 2 is here. Still just checking out things after the NFL draft, including the Titans not taking a wide receiver until the 7th round, despite picking all offensive players. And our buddy Jordan DeGenie will join us tomorrow, so we can ask him all about this. He wrote in. They did. He's a local guy. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, no question.
But
I like what I saw.
But if you just said, I'm not going to tell you anything about it, it's a 7th-round pick, what do you think what do you expect from any 7th-round pick?
Well,
Like no names, no position, no nothing.
I would agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, I watched him. He has some skill sets that I actually think can be successful. I think he's a better, younger version of NWI. When NWI was a rookie, let's say. I think he's coming in better than that as an undrafted guy. And I think he can play special teams. He's kind of rocked up, but for a tall guy, I think he comes out of his breaks really well, and he can run. This kid is 4'4". I'm watching him. I think he could be just as good, depending on how much he picks up on the scheme. You know, he could be potentially a 4 guy. That means once you get to 4, you're a contributor.
If he's drafted in the 7th round, he's a 4, then they need to be doing cartwils down there. That'd be fantastic.
I think potentially he can be that guy. Now, I don't know if he'll get that opportunity with Chris Moore. If they bring somebody else, another veteran, then that kind of push him down in his opportunities. But he can play special teams. This guy, he's just kind of like NWI to an extent, but better, I think, in his first year. He's coming in a little more equipped. And then I put a lot on Rob Moore because I think he's good at developing receivers, especially those tall ones, to come out of their breaks smoother and all the transitioning and the placement of your hips and how to get out of those breaks. That's what you're reading as a DB. I think I like what I saw. I really did. Now, I'm not saying he's a first-round pick or anything like that, but he's going to be better than the normal, I think his skill set than a normal 7th-round pick.
He's basically the same exact size as Rob Moore. This guy.
Oh, is
this
he?
kid, yeah.
See, yeah. I would say, to help everybody, not going into detail, he was more like 5th-round ability. That doesn't still mean he's going to contribute at a high level, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got to a point and they put him out in the game and he contributed, even if it's in a small manner. His rookie year. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I'd love to see it. That'd be a lot of fun.
Wouldn't be surprised.
It
depends on how some guys handle the pressure and his first opportunities. Does he capitalize on them? Does it take him a game or two in preseason to finally relax and, okay, I'm caught up with the speed of the game and I'm ready to rock and roll? So just some guys adapt quicker than others. So we shall see.
Jordan DeGenie, Patrick in the Zone TV chat says Purdy was a 7th rounder. Okay, that's one guy. That's one Purdy.
Watch this. Brady was a 6th rounder.
There you go. Well, I mean, you can go back and say, the Titans cornerback from Sanford, who was a safety.
Cortland
Finnegan, 7th-round pick.
Yep.
I mean, occasionally it works.
Yeah,
you know?
does.
I mean, occasionally it works. Maybe this is the next guy. Jordan DeGenie, who will join us tomorrow, we can ask him about this. So here's where we are with the Titans.
They still need to upgrade their receivers.
They need to upgrade.
I text you this early this morning. I just got to go down the list. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Lucas. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is last year's wide receiver group: Woods, Burks, Kinsey, Phillips, Robertson Jr., Board, Chris Conley, NWI, McMath, Cody Hollister. Now, some of those guys finished on the injury reserve. This year so far, that didn't scare me at all. And Woods coming off an ACL, going on his 10th year. Dow, Kinsey, McMath, Chris Moore, Phillips, Robertson Jr., NWI, and Cody Hollister. I think he's on IR, but he's still on the list. It's pretty much the same list. But Chris Moore and Dow. He's just replacing out Conley and Board and
Woods.
Right. See, they got to have another proven player. Even if it's at the level of Woods, it's got to be a 500, 600, 700 guy on this team that done it repeatedly over and over in this league. Even if they were a 3, they'll come in here and be a 2. And I don't know how much they value, and I'm gonna say it's Vrabel because now we see Rand. I mean, how much do they value receivers? Like we can just get some old good solid player. He's really a 4, but we'll put him out there. He'll produce, and we'll rely on Rob Moore to get him right. So what receivers are out there based off of Jordan DeJani? What he's saying, he's going even in the XFL.
This is how many receptions and yards and touchdowns they have returning.
Wait, before I don't want to cut you off again. This last time. We were at this point last year.
Same exact point.
Right in training camp.
Same point exactly.
We
talked about it the whole offseason.
And we still haven't addressed it yet?
No, it's maybe worse than it was last year.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so.
Right now. They returned 69 catches for 662 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's not one person. That's every receiver returning to this roster. Had a total of 69 catches for 662 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's everybody. Now, they brought in Chris Moore. He's 48 for 548 and 2 touchdowns. But
Which was a career year.
This is his best year by far.
And what year is he?
Like 7.
8. Yeah.
7 or 8. So this is who DeJani, he's got limited space. They probably told him this number of words on CBS.
How's that how it works?
3 free agents. DeMarcus Robinson, who we've talked about. He's got the same exact numbers as Chris Moore. He was 48 for 458. He had 10 more yards and he had the exact same numbers.
He was with the Chiefs.
As Chris Moore. DeMarcus Robinson. Yep, longtime Chief.
Right. Oh, okay. What was his measure? You don't have the measurables?
I looked. His 40 was slow. It was
I mean measure height.
He's full size.
Yeah,
Lucas, do you have that?
Yeah.
He's 6 foot something, DeMarcus Robinson. Maybe I've still got
that fits the bill. They want the tall ones. That's okay. That's what they like.
All right. While Lucas is inspecting.
Who's your next guy?
He is 6'1", 203 from
what
I'm seeing.
Okay.
Jarvis Landry, who we've all talked about. He played 9 games last year. He was 25
keep
for
it moving.
272.
I don't want an old guy. No.
Kenny Golladay, who just disappeared last year. He played 12 games. He had 6 catches in 12 games.
Yeah, they weren't even playing this guy. What was his numbers when he was at the Cowboys, right?
No,
Lions.
Lions.
He had
Same color
big year
scheme.
with the Lions.
That's right.
He had
got
a couple
injured,
thousand
right?
yard seasons with the Lions, right?
And then he
really fell off. And you were getting stuff about his effort at training camp, like not wanting to be there, things like that.
Those are red flags, boy. No, keep it moving.
So that's what he suggested. So then he takes a detour through the XFL. Yeah, I mean, he's only got a certain amount of space. Jacour Pearson, who was WKU and Ole Miss, he's like leader in the XFL clubhouse for receptions. He's little. He's a little fast person. Jacour Pearson.
They're not going to take him just because of that.
He said Hakeem Butler, who was a 4th-round pick in 2019, has played in literally every league on the face of the earth. Philly tried to convert him to a tight end and just said, screw it, and exported him to Canada.
He's kind of thick.
He's big, yeah. He has not made a catch in an NFL game. He's a 4th-round pick. Like Des Fitzpatrick, I think he at least has a couple of catches.
But if we talking about receivers, then he's borderline tight end. Nope.
So that was the 2
type
XFL guys. And then he mentioned trade, either Denzel Mims with the Jets or DeAndre Hopkins. Well, here's the thing. They have nothing to trade except for people. And if you want one of the Jets receivers, whether it's Mims or Corey Davis or whoever, just wait. They have to cut somebody. They're going to have to cut somebody.
Oh, you still got to talk about your Corey Davis?
100%. I'm taking that to the bank. The Jets have to cut somebody.
You said that, man. I hope it is. I'm all in Corey Davis. He may have a lot of suitors, but Hopkins, he's a veteran guy. I just don't want to go down that road. But if they don't have to give up a lot, and Vrabel would recall him when he was there with the Texans, so he would know him personally, like how he is as a player, locker room, and everything else with value. I would value that a little bit if they went that direction. I like actually Mims. I know he hasn't produced a lot in this league, but I remember him in college. He was with Baylor, right? Is that the kid that I'm talking about? He was with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
With the Jets.
I'd probably take a flyer, and he's got nice eyes, right? He's a pretty decent size receiver. If it's the kid I'm talking about, I probably can remember from college. I remember he did really well at the combine. I'm remembering this off the top of my head.
6'3", 207, 4 years of experience from the Baylor Bears.
And he ran a fast 40 at the combine. I remember this guy. So that's something you can work with right there. So you put him in the hands of Rob Moore. I think what round did he go? Top 3?
Oh, I'll have to.
I think you can get some
crack
out of that.
staff on that.
Yeah, and then you get economically you're fine. Somebody saying that was Mooney. Yeah, Mooney flew. Yeah, I saw Mooney up close and personal. I loved everything about Mooney. Yeah, from Tulane a couple years back. He's with the Bears now, but he got injured at the end. Yeah, I loved him. He was the best receiver there. We were doing training. Derek Mason was training him for the combine. Yeah, I told Derek Mason, he's the best dude y'all got. He was like, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah." Yeah, he could run routes. He was fast. You get fast and you can run routes. Ooh, it translated, and it did quickly. They should have threw him the ball more.
Denzel Mims was a second-round pick.
See, that's what I said.
Said he went early.
What's his size?
6'3",
Yep.
207.
I think that sounds like a Titan right there, and this guy can run. So for whatever reason, it hasn't translated with the Jets. But I would take a flyer on you, and you don't have to pay a whole lot. You get a second-round talent. You can look like a hero right there. So, matter of fact, if you want to go down the road, you can get a veteran like Hopkins in the trade and go with Young and Mims. And guess what? Hopkins can teach Mims how to be a big, tall receiver in this league and make some plays. And then now you're working with something. Now, it could be some other combination, but I could see them doing something like that. You're talking about free agency, he said on Monday, but it's really the rest of this time all the way, even through training camp. There's going to be guys getting cut, released because of their contracts, and we're set up June 1st. After training camp, guys are going to get released. So there's going to be an opportunity to pick up some of these guys. Now, here's the issue to me when we're talking about receiver before we go to break, is that you're not going to get your numbers that you are in other offenses as a wide receiver. So you got to get some guys who want to come here and understand that that's going to happen, unless you're going to change your offense and throw a little bit more. I hope they do that. And we don't know what we're going to see out of Tim Kelly as the OC. He may throw a little bit more and lean more that way than the other coordinators because of his relationship with Vrabel. But Vrabel's still going to run the football. Right. Maybe they just run maybe 5 more passes than they normally do. Hey, that's a big tick up.
I mean, the only people that run the ball with any similar frequency, as far as I can remember, I follow all this stuff, is essentially the Ravens and the Eagles. Like, that's who runs the ball: the Titans, the Ravens, and the Eagles.
I sure felt like the Eagles was throwing the ball. I think it's when they threw the ball. They were throwing the ball on first down.
Well, remember when they came here and we were doing the pregame show, and it's like, okay, Jalen Hurts got to show us he can be his arm, and then he went out and threw for like 380 that day. Yeah. That dude made it rain.
Yep, and it poured.
All right, it rains with info, and Coach Mack joins us, and he will join us next. Time for the Mack Attack on Blaine and Mickey. Mack is on with the Mack Attack. Better rates, better coverage, better service. That's why Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau health plans for their health coverage for 75 years, and why we rely on Coach Mack every Tuesday for the Mack Attack. Coach Mack, it's the post-draft edition. How in the world are you doing, man? How much did you enjoy this year's draft with all the trades and all the excitement and everything else that went down?
Yeah, Mickey and Blaine, look, this draft to me, I mean, this is my 38th, but I really felt like just the ones that I've done here for the 7 that I've done with Titans Radio is that I enjoy all of them, but I really enjoy it because Rhett and I, we're a draft department of 2 for Titans Radio. We put together a lot of work putting together our vertical and horizontal boards so that we can do a live radio show at the moment and be able to be within the framework of, at least where people are picking. We have no idea what teams are going to pick, and with 41 trades, but at least we had this draft board that we had this year was the best we've had as far as being exactly right especially the first 2 days that we were live, of people within the confines of where we thought, that they would go, regardless of position. So, I mean, I enjoyed a lot. And then, of course, Saturday, I was up there with Rhett all day after I did a hit with Doug Matthews on Forklift Systems Saturday. Rhett does updates for the network throughout the whole third day of the draft, and he and I were together the whole day Saturday. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty all-encompassing for us, and I felt very, very good about our preparation. But I've got to be honest with you, I'm glad that it's behind us.
Obviously, it was an all-offensive draft. It turned out to be offensive players. There was a theme there. But when you look at these guys, it's a bunch of multi-year starters, like 3 and even 4-year starter guys.
Yeah, and again, look, guys, I've been in – what have I been? I've been in 4 different draft rooms in 5 different cities because I was in 2 cities with the Rams, St. Louis and L.A. I've never been in a draft room in my 31 years where you say, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and take this guy. We don't think he can help us. Never. I've never been – I've never heard that uttered once in all the 31 years I've been in draft rooms. So if you take somebody you feel like somewhere – and with development, because that's what your coaches are for, that they can help you in some place. So clearly, the direction that Rand and Mike Vrabel went, with their staff, is they feel like these guys can help them in some form or fashion. And so here we go. I'm looking forward to when they get in here. I think the rookies will get in here on Thursday. Then they will start to, put them through an orientation. If they're doing it like, what I've done in the past, and that has nothing to bear on anything that they do, but you have your rookies by themselves for a while, then you start to incorporate them into phase 2 with your vets and then into phase 3. So we're on to the next stage of it. But now it's up to the players that were drafted and their coaching staff to develop their skills that they were drafted for.
Coach Mack has got the skills to talk about it, that's for sure. He joins us every Tuesday, including today, right now.
Well, Coach, I know who has mad skills, and that was Jason McCourty doing all that smack talk and representing the Oilers throwback Eddie George jersey there, man. Did you see that, man? That was pretty cool.
You know what? We don't have.
You don't have time to see it, huh?
We don't, because we don't have it on as far as the whole thing, because we're doing the draft. We've got it up on the screen. But I will say this to your point. As soon as he came on up there, Mike Teeth said, we're off for a minute. Let's listen to this. It was epic. Epic. That's all I can say. I don't know how else to say it. J-Mac was epic.
Yeah, that was awesome there, just to see the smack talking and everything else. Even kind of getting a little long-winded there, talking about Titans beat the Chiefs. So that was hilarious. I guess your thoughts on how skillfully, I would maybe term it, the Texans moving back up to pick number 3 after taking number 2. I guess give us your thoughts on them getting the second and the third pick, with kind of navigating with all the collateral they had to actually pull that off. Because I was stunned.
You just broke it down. You just broke it down for me, Blaine. You're right. They had collateral to do it, right? Look, to have 2 number 1 draft picks, within the top 15, you've got to be a pretty bad team. And they were, but they used it. They were judicious in the way they used it. So that's using your collateral in the draft. I mean, I am sure that if you ask people at the Texans, they're happy they had it then to be able to do that. But they probably, would not have liked the last 4 or 5 or 6 years where they've not been very good to be able to be in that position. But the position they were in with the collateral they had, they worked it just right for them.
Well, in today's age, naturally, everybody's so much more developed in players, whether you play the quarterback, running back, DBs, because all this, 7-on-7 and everything else. But with the Titans drafting Levis at in the second round, what are your thoughts on where the team is structured, how you would implement him at some point in time? I know Coach Vrabel said that he was a third team with Malik Willis and everything else, but we all know when you're first, second, third, that comes with a certain amount of pressures to speed up the process. And will that process be sped up, or do you think they'll just continue to let it play itself out with Tannehill being a comfort zone and being your starting quarterback?
Well, they'll let it play out, but they've got to develop him. And anytime you draft a player, I mean, I did it for 31 years. I developed players for 31 years, but when you draft them and bring them in, there has to be a cooperation between the coach and the player, so that you can accentuate their development. So a lot of that depends on, I mean, I was in charge of a lot of rookie classes during my years of coaching, and the first thing I would tell them is, look, you've got requisite skills that make people in this building want to bring you in here. Now, it's up to you once you're in this building, and you will have all the help that you could get. But you've got to be the main one that wants to develop your skills to an NFL level. So, I mean, that goes with whoever comes in the building, and the quarterback is no different. Now, some people nowadays, I mean, if you take a quarterback that's going to have to play, we've seen early on what that can be like because – and it's not really fair to those quarterbacks, but, I mean, some of the great ones have been thrust into that position and weren't very successful early, but then some of them have taken it on to a Hall of Fame career. So, but it's up to the individual player and then the coaching staff to develop those players in conjunction with the player. That'll never change in this league. It will never, ever change. And that's what they'll do with Will Levis.
No doubt about it. We're with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack. I guess one more real quick. I guess there were more trades in this draft than I'd ever seen, I think, in NFL history. And sometimes it was just up, a couple spots just to get their guy. Why do you think there were more trades in this draft than ever before? Are things changing with the NFL, or that just coincidental?
No, well, I think there's two things. First of all, you can trade up now because of the CBA, the way it's been for years, the way salaries are slotted, it's not a major hit to trade up anymore.
Oh.
Okay. Now you have, because it's still got to fit into the salary cap. I mean, these guys are still getting paid and clubs have to be in conjunction with a salary cap, but that is a big part of it. And the other part of it is this, to me, depending on where you are as a football team, and if you're giving up spots, even in the present draft or in drafts to come, you've got to kind of gauge as to where your football team is, as to what you need. But that made, and I tell you what, you talk about something that when you're doing live draft shows and you're trying to be able to find within a pod of people that makes you a little nervous when they start flipping that. We were turning a lot of pages. Mike Keith did a great job of keeping us on track. And as I said, I was very proud of that board that Rhett and I put together because we were never lost, but we were scrambling a few times.
Well, with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack from Titans Radio.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about this because I thought about you guys in St. Louis. So Tyjae Spears gets drafted. He obviously has some noted medical issues with one of his knees. You guys drafted Todd Gurley, and there were questions about one of his knees, and he wound up running for 5,000 yards in 5 years for you and made the Pro Bowl 3 times, and then he played one more year, and that was the end of his career. What all goes into making a decision to draft a player who has a physical question like that?
You got to trust your medical people. I mean, and you got to trust multiple medical people. I mean, you go over those things so finely. I mean, and you never know. I mean, but Tyjae Spears is a lot like Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was able to perform, with that. Tyjae Spears was able to perform like that. There have been several quality running backs in the National Football League. History will show you that have been able to do that. But it comes down to the way that your medical people, and not only your medical people, but the league, when you bring them to the combine, I mean, none of this stuff is hidden. So you make a decision and you go with it. And as I say, you never draft somebody that you said, this guy is too hurt to help us, but we think we'll take him anyway.
What is the process like of trying to sign this frenzy, this feeding frenzy of undrafted guys? And Blaine brought this up earlier. It seems like some of those guys are getting more money now than we've ever seen undrafted guys get.
Well, first of all, that's 100% true. Blaine is 100% correct. Now, you understand everybody has the same free agent pool to work from.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, but when this first started, when the free agency first started, I mean, it was really wide open Wild West, because you could, as much money as you had, that's how much money you could spend. Well, they've reined that in now. So everybody has the same amount of money to spend. And so you can designate, which guys you want. You can take 2 or 3 guys and spend all of your money on it. And you're right. Some of them are getting a pretty nice contracts, as far as, 175,000, 200,000. I mean, that's pretty good as far as something guaranteed. Now, within the context of, the multiple hundreds of millions that a salary cap is, it's not a big dent. But if you want, and that just points out this, and I will tell you this, guys, having done it for years, it is one of the most competitive times that you can have. I mean, you talk about working the phone and being able to work, multiple phones at once with a player, with their agent, with this and with that. That is why, and again, let's go back, and you guys asked some very good questions pre-draft about some of these pre-draft visits. That's why on some of those 30 visits, or even visits at the Combine, or even visits at the Senior Bowl, you try to designate you think might slip down there in the lower part and might not be drafted, and develop a relationship with them and their representation way before you start into that Wild West show after the draft is over.
On with Coach Mack, getting the Mack attack, just like we do every Tuesday.
Well, Coach Mack, we had a lot of fans here, naturally, in Tennessee country here for the Vols. But a lot of them are upset today, didn't take Hendon Hooker. And their reasoning for it is because Rand was a Gator and Hendon is a Vol. Explain to them why that has nothing to do with the factor of why they didn't take him.
Well, exactly, zero. The Gators or the Vols aren't paying Rand right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, just like, I mean, look, how fired up I was this year when the Frogs were going to the national championship. Guess how much money I get from the Frogs? None.
Zero.
Okay? I mean, so you're always going to have allegiance, and a connection to where you played ball or where you went to school. But that has absolutely zero to do with it. If that was a deciding factor, well, then every head coach would just take, or every general manager would just take players from his school. That probably wouldn't work real good either.
No doubt about it. We're in with Coach Mack giving us a Mack attack. I guess lastly for me, for the Titans just draft class, give us kind of what caught your attention about these players. If you just got one thing to say about one player or all of them, you have the floor.
Well, I mean, they made it an offensive draft because we know they needed help on the offensive side of the ball. They still need help on the offensive side of the ball, and that was evident last year. They're very, very aware of it. I don't think they're completely done with it yet. They addressed the offensive line. They addressed a change of pace back, and then they addressed the tight end, because I'm pretty sure they're going to use multiple tight end sets. And so, we will see that. You address your board, and then hopefully it addresses some of your needs. But an entire offensive draft didn't surprise me. The only guy that they took that we did not do work on, was our wide receiver, from UT Martin. But again, that's where being part of a local draft day workout, and this kid has a lot of numbers there at UT Martin. So as much work as we did and as much as we thought we were on top of it, and I always defer to the clubs, because all the information that we work on from January on, you still don't have as much information as clubs do. So that was my take on it.
Hey, Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Hey, when you were scouting Jalen Duncan, it seemed like there were I saw Daniel Jeremiah called him the best pick of the entire 6th round. Others maybe had some questions about him because he didn't play well against the best of competition. He was a 3-4 year starter. Just curious, what was your draft report on Jalen Duncan?
Athletic, good mover, needs to get stronger and needs technique work. That's why in the National Football League. And here's the other thing I will say, guys, and please, I know that you guys know this. When these guys are in college, regardless of the level of football they are playing, they have 20 hours a week for the coaches, 20 hours a week to really hone these guys' skills. All right, that encompasses everything. In the National Football League, you got 20 hours a day that you can hone their skills. That's what. Look, this guy is a big, long athlete that has skills that, as an offensive line coach, you would want to develop. That's why he was taken where he was. Daniel Jeremiah, I don't listen to a lot of these people that do. You guys know how I am with mock drafts.
Sure.
I trust Daniel Jeremiah for this reason. He's done it for his mortgage.
Right.
Ozzie Newsome trained him. He's done it for a living. So he's pretty spot on most of the time.
Well, that's why I brought him up. Yeah, because, again, I knew about his background, but he liked the pick a lot. But it was just interesting, Coach, because there were kind of different people who viewed it all over the boards. All right, one more question before we let you go.
Yeah.
What is the process like in the case of, and this time, Skoronski, where is he a guard or a tackle? How do you go about that process and figuring that out?
Yeah, well, we're all going to see it. You guys are going to be at training camp. You guys are going to be there. I mean, that's where it's going to start. And I think that they will let it play out. He's going to be starting somewhere on this offensive line. I will say that he will be starting somewhere on this offensive line, barring, and we don't even want to talk about injuries with this club anymore. But barring anything happen, he will be starting somewhere on this offensive line. We'll see how it fleshes out. I'm going to find out just like you guys are going to find out. When training camp starts, we'll be there watching every bit of it.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. I know you and Rhett need a little R&R after another long draft period, but we appreciate you joining us each Tuesday. Appreciate the time today. We'll talk to you next week, sir.
Guys, I was looking forward to this post-draft talk with both of you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you around really soon.
Yes, sir, down at the Titans HQ. Thank you, Coach Mack.
Appreciate it.
Always
See you
good
guys.
talking to
Got
you.
Josh Wiley tomorrow.
That's right. All right, we do have Josh Wiley tomorrow. Just there's a little tease for you. All right, when we come back, I'll tease this. Found an article on The Athletic about Will Levis at Penn State and how things went down with Clifford. And we'll tell you all about that next. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. So their question was, for a lot of people, so for Will Levis, how did he not beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State? Sean Clifford, a late-round NFL pick, maybe not nearly the projected future that Will Levis will have in the NFL, who many thought would be a first-round pick. So I thought I had remembered some mailbag or something somewhere, and this is from Audrey Snyder, who's a writer for The Athletic, covering Penn State and doing a mailbag. And this was a question. In hindsight, did James Franklin choose the wrong quarterback to hitch his wagon to? Will Levis' name is being bandied about as a top 2023 draft pick. And so here's the answer. We're in the midst of what feels like Will Levis mania. Kentucky's quarterback is appearing in the first, so this is before the draft, in the first round of many early NFL mock drafts. He also walked the red carpet at the Kentucky Derby last weekend and will be camp counselor at the Manning Passing Academy next month. Okay, so she goes on. Personally, I don't know if Will Levis will become a first-round pick. That's interesting. I was surprised when I saw his name mentioned so often, but there's always a lot of intrigue with big quarterbacks who have big arms. He is certainly that. That big arm was part of what made him so appealing to Penn State's staff when they recruited him before they turned him into a battering ram while it cycled through offensive coordinators during his time at Happy Valley. For the time being, it does look like Penn State let a good one get away. If I had to pick between the two right now for the upcoming season, I'd pick Levis. How Penn State used Levis in his final season was baffling, making it understandable that he left. As Levis told me at the time of his transfer, I don't want to be known as the guy who goes in and puts his head down and runs the ball. He exited Penn State with 133 rush attempts and 102 pass attempts.
Hey.
For all that was made of his arm, Penn State didn't give him much of a chance to throw the ball in games. He made a spot start against Iowa in place of Sean Clifford when Penn State bottomed out at 0-5, but he fumbled and was replaced by Clifford later in the same game. Clifford kept his starting job from there on out. Here you go. At the time, the entire narrative surrounding the program was that the 4-5 season was a product of the lack of spring practice, the oddities and challenges of COVID-19. Knowing what we know now, with a 7-6 record in 2021 to add 4-5, it certainly feels like Penn State should have given Levis more of a shot, even after he struggled in the spot start and was benched. At the time, though, coaches were banking on Clifford jump-starting the offense, which he did as the Nittany Lions finished with 4 consecutive wins, add in a stellar start to last season, and nobody was second-guessing Levis' departure for a chunk of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And Clifford drafted in the 5th to Green Bay.
Oh.
Who needs a backup? So there you go, Clifford and Levis.
Okay. So he was a 5th rounder. He's going to be a career backup, right? Probably. With Love there, he just got an extension, right? For an extra year, so he's got 2 years left. I don't know if he's second string or practice squad, but so I don't even remember Levis there. I just knew he transferred from Penn State, but I don't remember him playing a lot. I just remember the Clifford kid.
And then they have their stats for 2021. Clifford, 61%, 3,100 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And Will Levis in 2021, 66%, 26 passing yards, 24 TDs, and 13 INTs.
Mm.
So it's their 2021 comparison. This was from May of 2022. So literally,
it sounds like they were just going to just run Levis at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't even trust him throwing.
So this was written not before the draft. This was written a full year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going into the 2022 season.
Going into 2022. Yep.
Levis coming off that big 2021.
And what's funny is if you look at his stats, I mean, people are talking about his interceptions. I mean, he threw 13 in his good year. He threw 24-13 in 2021 in his good year.
Yeah, the numbers are not like worlds apart.
Oh,
the
for
wins
his
are.
good year and his not so good year?
Right.
26-13, and what was the bad year? 26 TDs, 13 interceptions. And then last season, new coordinator.
We should all just know this. I should know this.
Receivers, O-line, and yeah.
Will Levis stats, he was in 2022, 65% completion, 2,400 yards, so 400 less yards, 19
TDs,
touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He threw 3 less interceptions in the bad year.
The rush yardage numbers were very different.
His toe was all messed up, though, right?
Yes, and he got sacked a ton last season, but he had 9 rushing touchdowns in 2021.
Sure did. Yeah, he had 376 rush yards in 2021. He had minus 107, which sack yards do count
Yes,
in
those
college
sack
football.
numbers did him dirty last year.
Sure did. Yeah. He caught a pass in 2021, too. Was 1 for 15. He did it all.
So it sounds like when he got his opportunity, he didn't seize the moment. He didn't step up when he was at Penn State. And they're saying, he's probably saying, they should have been a little more patient because they really wasn't utilizing me to the fullest. They're just running me. So, yep.
Yeah, he ran for almost as many yards as he passed for at Penn State.
Dang.
He ran for almost as many as he passed for. He passed for 644. He ran for 473. But he's a big, yoked up dude. And in college football, you have so many players. You can just have like a big quarterback who goes out and runs the ball sometimes.
Well, that sounds like recruiting. I'm gonna repeat here what on the chat says. Jamison TB. James Franklin trying to juggle his promises that he made from both sides of his mouth like he always does. That's what that was. And I know some Penn State alumni who think they call him James Bumbling Franklin. Because they said at Penn State that every time they get in crunch time, he makes horrific calls on offense. And that's why they keep changing off his coordinators, because he blames them.
Boy, every time somebody else gets a raise, he gets one, though. His agent I'd like to hire his agent.
Man.
That nobody gets a raise like James Franklin.
My phone rang. They called me. Oh, yeah, did Blaine? Yeah. It was ESPN. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Let me tell Paul.
You gonna get us both a raise?
I know, right?
Or fired? We got.
In the meantime, in between time. Peace.